The Boeing 737 MAX's downfall began with two catastrophic crashes that shocked the world and sent ripples of fear through the aviation industry. In October 2018, Lion Air Flight 610 crashed just minutes after takeoff from Jakarta, Indonesia, plunging into the sea and killing all 189 people on board. The tragedy left families devastated and raised urgent questions about the safety of modern air travel. Less than 5 months later, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 suffered the same fate, crashing shortly after departure and claiming 157 lives. The world watched in horror as the similarities between the two disasters became impossible to ignore. Both planes were nearly new 737 MAX jets, and both went down soon after takeoff under eerily similar circumstances, raising suspicions about the aircraft itself. Investigators quickly noticed a disturbing pattern. In both cases, the aircraft's nose was forced downward repeatedly, despite the desperate efforts of the pilots to regain control. The focus of the investigation shifted rapidly from pilot error to a deeper, systemic flaw within the aircraft's design and software. The global aviation community was stunned. Brand new jets from Boeing, a company long considered synonymous with safety and reliability, were falling from the sky. Within days of the second crash, aviation authorities around the world took unprecedented action, grounding the entire 737 MAX fleet to prevent further tragedy. Nearly 400 jets were parked overnight, and Boeing suddenly faced a crisis of trust and credibility unlike any in its storied history. The 737 MAX, once celebrated as a marvel of engineering and innovation, had overnight become a symbol of disaster and corporate failure. Airlines, regulators, and passengers demanded answers. What was causing these tragedies, and how many more planes might be at risk if the truth remained hidden? The search for answers would soon reveal a troubling story of flawed design, immense corporate pressure, and regulatory failures that allowed critical issues to go unchecked. Boeing's reputation, and the very future of the 737 MAX, now hung in the balance, as the world waited for accountability and change. At the center of both crashes was a software system called MCAS, the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System. This system, though largely invisible to pilots during normal operations, played a critical role in the fate of the 737 MAX. Its purpose and design would soon become the focus of intense scrutiny worldwide. MCAS was designed to counteract the 737 MAX's tendency to pitch up due to its larger, repositioned engines. These engines, mounted further forward and higher on the wing than previous models, altered the plane's aerodynamics, making it more likely to lift its nose in certain situations. The system relied on a single angle of attack sensor. If that sensor failed, MCAS could force the nose down even when unnecessary. This single point of failure meant that a simple malfunction could have devastating consequences, as there was no backup to verify the sensor's data. In both crashes, a faulty sensor triggered MCAS repeatedly, overpowering the pilot's attempts to regain control. The system activated again and again, each time pushing the nose lower, while the crew fought to understand what was happening. Crucially, Boeing had not fully informed pilots about MCAS or provided specific training on how to handle its malfunction. Many pilots were unaware the system even existed, let alone how to disable it in an emergency. MCAS wasn't mentioned in flight manuals, leaving crews unprepared for its relentless activation. The absence of this vital information meant that pilots were left to troubleshoot a mysterious and aggressive system in real time. The pilots fought desperately, but standard procedures couldn't stop MCAS from re-engaging. Each attempt to regain control was met with renewed resistance from the automated system, creating a tragic and overwhelming situation in the cockpit. The result: 346 lives lost to a hidden flaw, and a catastrophic failure to communicate risk. Families and communities around the world were left devastated, searching for answers and accountability. The tragedy was not just a technical failure, but a breakdown in trust and transparency. It exposed deep flaws in the way safety information was shared between manufacturers, regulators, and the pilots who rely on it. The world demanded to know how such a system could be installed without pilots' knowledge. The MCAS story became a symbol of the urgent need for openness, accountability, and reform in aviation safety. The MCAS revelations led to the longest grounding of a commercial jet in modern history, 20 months of uncertainty and financial chaos. Airlines scrambled to replace grounded jets, costing billions and disrupting travel for millions. Boeing's losses soared past $20 billion, with compensation to victims' families, airlines, and the cost of redesigning MCAS. Investigations revealed Boeing had downplayed MCAS's risks and pushed for minimal pilot training to make the MAX more marketable. The company's reputation was shattered, and trust with regulators and customers evaporated. Only after major software overhauls and new pilot training did the FAA and other authorities allow the MAX to fly again. But every flight was now under intense scrutiny, and Boeing's brand was forever changed. The crisis exposed the dangers of prioritizing profit over safety. Just as Boeing began to recover from its previous troubles, a new and unexpected crisis struck, shaking the company and the aviation world once again. In January 2024, Alaska Airlines Flight 1282 suffered a terrifying mid-air blowout when a door plug panel suddenly detached at 16,000 feet, leaving a gaping hole in the side of the aircraft. Miraculously, no one was seriously hurt, but the incident exposed a shocking lapse in safety. 4 bolts meant to secure the panel were missing, allowing the door plug to blow out mid-flight. Investigators soon discovered the bolts had never been reinstalled after factory repairs. There was no paperwork, no sign-off, and no final checks. It was a glaring hole in Boeing's quality control process, one that should have been impossible in modern aviation. Shockingly, the door plug had flown over 100 times unsecured, carrying thousands of passengers on routine flights. It was a near miss that could have easily turned catastrophic under slightly different circumstances. The FAA responded by grounding all similar 737 MAX 9 jets across the country. Inspections quickly revealed more loose bolts and other defects, raising alarms throughout the industry. The problem was no longer just about software or design flaws, it was a breakdown in basic manufacturing discipline and oversight, something far more fundamental. The Alaska incident made it clear that Boeing's issues ran much deeper than MCAS, raising urgent questions about the company's entire production culture and its commitment to safety. The world was left wondering, how could such a basic, preventable error slip through at one of aviation's most storied and trusted companies, and what would it mean for the future of Boeing? The Alaska Airlines incident exposed systemic failures on Boeing's factory floor. Under pressure to ramp up production, shortcuts were taken and quality checks missed. The loss of experienced workers after layoffs left critical jobs in the hands of undertrained staff. Outsourcing to suppliers like Spirit Aerosystems created gaps in oversight, with defects often arriving at Boeing's door. The FAA capped MAX production and increased inspections, demanding real change before output could rise. Boeing now faced the daunting task of rebuilding its manufacturing culture from the ground up. Many trace Boeing's troubles to its 1997 merger with McDonnell Douglas. Once led by engineers focused on safety and innovation, Boeing's culture shifted toward cost-cutting and shareholder value. The move of headquarters from Seattle to Chicago symbolized a growing divide between leadership and the factory floor. To compete with Airbus, Boeing updated the aging 737 instead of designing a new jet, prioritizing speed and savings over safety. This led to compromises like MCAS and increased outsourcing, straining quality control. Employees felt pressure to meet quotas, sometimes at the expense of raising safety concerns. Whistleblowers described a culture where production targets overshadowed engineering rigor. The erosion of Boeing's engineering-first ethos set the stage for both the MCAS disasters and the Alaska Airlines incident. The company's legacy of safety was traded for short-term financial gains. Now, Boeing must reckon with the consequences of those choices. In the wake of the Alaska Airlines blowout, Boeing faces a pivotal moment. Regulators, lawmakers, and the public demand sweeping changes and accountability. The FAA has capped production and insists on a cultural overhaul before business can resume as usual. Leadership changes signal a new direction, but rebuilding trust will take years of flawless performance. Boeing must slow production, invest in training, and put engineering back at the center of its mission. The 737 MAX's story is a stark reminder. Safety must never be sacrificed for speed or profit. The world is watching to see if Boeing can reclaim its legacy of excellence, or if this crisis marks the start of a permanent decline. The future of American aviation hangs in the balance.